In many parts of the world, including Asia, the concept of a last meal for those on death row has evolved into a tradition that sparks curiosity, reflection, and sometimes debate. The last meal often represents a final taste of comfort and satisfaction for individuals facing their fate, and their choices can be both revealing and poignant. This ritual highlights not only personal preferences but also cultural significance, as the selected dishes may offer a glimpse into the lives and experiences of those condemned. Here is 10 notable last meal requests from death row inmates across Asia, each telling a unique story. Number 1 at our list is Ali Imrozi bin Haji Nurhasim and Huda bin Abdul Haq, Indonesia, who was convicted and executed for his role in carrying out the Christmas Eve 2000 Indonesia bombings, who killed 18 people and injured 118 people, and 2002 Bali bombings, who killed 204 people and injured 209 people. Imrozi was the brother of Huda bin Abdul Haq, also known as Mukhlas, who coordinated the bombing attack. Imrozi was executed together with Mukhlas the 9th of November, 2008 by firing squad. For their last meal they requested roti canai and chips made from Indian 3-leaved yam. The two were brothers and shared the same last meal, which was provided by their family. Number 2, Freddy Budiman, Indonesia, was an Indonesian drug trader who was executed in 2016. His execution, along with 3 other drug traders, are the latest instances of capital punishment in the country as of 2024. Budiman grew up in Surabaya. He later settled in Jakarta. At one point he was in the eyewear business. Budiman was arrested in 2009 for possessing 500 grams of methamphetamine and was sentenced to 3 years and 4 months in prison for this case. In 2011, he was arrested for importing 1.4 million ecstasy pills from mainland China. He was sentenced to death in 2012. He was sent to Sipenang prison that year. Budiman was able to use his wealth and influence in prison. He allegedly paid for preferential treatment and was allowed a room for conjugal visits, based on his lover's confession before he was executed. He also developed a network of drug dealers and concocted his own drugs in prison. In 2013, he was transferred to Batu prison on Nusa Kambangan. In 2014, Budiman confessed to Haris Azhar that he asked the police, BNN, and the Directorate General of Customs and Excise to import drugs into Indonesia. Budiman was executed on the 29th of July, 2016 at Nusa Kambangan, Cilacap, Central Java, together with 3 other people. The execution was carried out by firing squad. His application for judicial review was rejected by the Supreme Court of Indonesia. According to his last wish, Budiman was buried in Surabaya, the land of his birth. For his last meal he requested homemade otak-otak fish cakes and rendang, made by his former mother-in-law. Number 3, Cheng Chi, Taiwan. Cheng Chi carried out a stabbing spree targeting random civilians on a Taipei Metro C321 train near Jiangzikou Station, resulting in 4 deaths and 24 injuries. It was the first fatal attack on the city's subway system since operations began in 1996. The attacker, 21-year-old Cheng Chi, was arrested after the attack. He was sentenced to death, in addition to 144 years in prison, and was executed on the 10th of May, 2016. The attack started on the 21st of May, 2014 at around 16:25 local time, inside a Bannan Line train heading west between Longshan Temple Station in Taipei and Jiangzikou Station in New Taipei. The distance between the 2 stations is the longest between any 2 stations in the Taipei Metro system, lasting 3 to 5 minutes. During the attack, the assailant chased and hacked passengers with a 30 centimeters long fruit knife. Before the train could stop at Jiangzikou Station, a group of passengers banded together to distance themselves using umbrellas while others tried to discourage the attacker by loudly taunting him. According to statistics compiled by the New Taipei Fire Department, the youngest victim was a 26-year-old graduate student at National Cheng Kung University, identified as Chang Chenghan, male. The other 3 killed were 28-year-old Xie Qingyun, male, 47-year-old Pan Paichu and 62-year-old Li Suiyun, both female. They were all taken to different hospitals in Taipei and New Taipei, the department said. In addition, 24 others were wounded during the knife attack, 10 critically. Cheng Chi was born the 3rd of April, 1993 in the Banqiao district, and attended schools in Taipei. He grew up with few friends and was extremely focused on his studies. Cheng was also interested in violent online games and had written horror stories. In elementary school, Cheng threatened to kill classmates over small disagreements. In junior high school, he had carried a knife for a month looking for a chance to stab his teacher. In high school, Cheng began blogging about his plans to kill and posted articles about murders. He enrolled in the Chengcheng Institute of Technology in 2011 with the intention of receiving military training, but was expelled 2 years later. He then transferred to Tunghai University, School officials there had noticed Cheng's startling social media activity and offered him counseling before the incident, but no irregularities were discovered. At the time of the attack, Cheng lived in the Banqiao district of New Taipei with his parents and younger brother. After graduating from high school, Cheng enrolled in the Department of Power and Systems Engineering at the National Defense University. Until June 2013, in the second semester of his sophomore year, he was reprimanded by the school for failing to obtain more than half of the credits in that semester. He dropped out, and in September of the same year, he entered the second year of the Department of Environmental Engineering at Tunghai University through the transfer exam. During the university's winter vacation in 2014, Cheng again applied to transfer to another school. He aimed to transfer to the Chinese Literature Department, but failed to pass the exam. Cheng's parents told the police that he had a lively personality in high school, and his personality changed after he dropped out of National Defense University. Justice Minister Luo Yingshe signed the execution order for Cheng at 5 p.m. on the 10th of May, 2016. Cheng was executed at 2047 on the same day by gunshot. For his last meal request, he ordered biandang with stewed pork, rice and vegetables. After eating his last meal, Cheng was given general anesthesia. Soon after its administration, he was laid in a prone position and shot in the heart 3 times. The 18-day gap between Cheng's final guilty verdict and execution was the shortest in Taiwanese history. Number 4 on our list is Johannes van Damme. He was a Dutch engineer and businessman executed in Singapore for drug trafficking. After purportedly being recruited to work as a courier for a Nigerian drug trafficking organization, Van Damme was caught up in a DEA-led international sting operation, which resulted in him being arrested while in possession of nearly 6 kilograms of high-quality heroin during a stopover in Singapore's Changi Airport. Van Damme was hanged before dawn at Changi Prison on the early morning of the 23rd of September, 1994. The Central Narcotics Bureau issued a press release at 11:30 a.m. stating, a convicted drug smuggler, Johannes van Damme, a man aged 59 and a Dutch national, was put to death in Changi Prison this morning. Van Damme's family subsequently published the telegram sent to them by Singaporean authorities. Death sentence passed on Johannes. Claim body on the 23rd of September, 94. Signed Superintendent, Changi Prison, Singapore. For his last meal he got roast chicken with salad and Coca-Cola on ice, fried eggs and sausages, and a meal of specially made pea soup with sausages from the Dutch embassy. Number 5 is Leopoldo Echegaray, Philippines. For rape of his 10-year-old stepdaughter, Leopoldo Echegaray was the first Filipino to be executed after the reinstatement of the death penalty in the Philippines in 1993, some 23 years after the last judicial execution was carried out. The Free Legal Assistance Group or Flag Lawyer Attorney worked to stay his execution due to controversies behind the reinstatement of the death penalty. His death sparked national debate over the legality and morality of capital punishment, which was later suspended on the 15th of April, 2006. In 1994, Echegaray, a house painter, was accused of repeatedly raping Rodessa, the 10-year-old daughter of his live-in partner. Rodessa was nicknamed Baby by the press. During Echegaray's trial, Rodessa's mother accused her daughter of lying and claimed that the accusation was motivated by the greed of Rodessa's grandmother. On September 7, 1994, Echegaray was convicted for rape by Branch 104 of the Regional Trial Court in Quezon City and was sentenced to death. The death sentence was automatically reviewed by the Supreme Court and confirmed on June 25, 1996. Echegaray filed a motion to appeal, which was denied on January 19, 1999. Less than a month later, Echegaray was executed by lethal injection on February 5, 1999. Echegaray was told of the court ruling at noon, 3 hours before he was to die by lethal injection at Manila's New Bilibid prison. He is the first man to be executed in the Philippines since 1976. Although Echegaray had initially maintained his innocence at his trial and in public, he privately admitted his guilt in his last moments. His last words were, "Baby, forgive me." He was pronounced dead 8 minutes later. His last meal was sardines and dried fish. When the reprieve was announced, he shared the food with relatives who had gathered at the prison. Number 6 and only woman on our list is Mona Fandey, Malaysia. Nurmazna Bini Ismail, known professionally as Mona Fandey, was a Malaysian pop singer and murderer. She was executed by hanging on the 2nd of November, 2001 at the age of 45, after being convicted of the murder of Batu Talim State Assemblyman named Mazlan Idris in 1993. In 1993, the couple were approached by Mazlan Idris, a politician who was eyeing the position of the Menteri Besar of Pahang. The couple agreed by promising to give Mazlan a talisman comprising a tongkat and a songkok supposedly owned by Sukarno, the first president of Indonesia, with an offer of Rm 2.5 million. In exchange, Mazlan agreed to pay 500,000 Rm and giving them 10 land titles as guarantee for the remainder. Mazlan was reported missing on the 2nd of July, 1993 after withdrawing almost 300,000 Rm from various banks in Kuala Lumpur and thereafter meeting Mona at Raub, Pahang. Soon afterwards, Mona was reported to have gone on a shopping spree in Kuala Lumpur where she bought a new Mercedes-Benz and also bought a new cell phone, gold jewelry, sofas, kitchen cabinets, a TV and a video recorder. All items were paid for in cash. On the 15th of July, 1993, Mona checked into Tungshan Hospital for plastic surgery on her face, forehead and nose. After arresting the couple's assistant Jeremy Hassan on the 13th of July, 1993 for an unrelated drug consumption offence and questioning him at Dawn Police Station, on the 22nd of July, 1993 Mazlan's dismembered and partially skinned body was discovered by the Royal Malaysia Police, buried 6 feet deep in a pit covered with cement on a property owned by Mazlan in Pahang. His body was dismembered into 18 parts and buried in a hole at the storeroom of an unfinished house. Police also found an altar and statues of deities, as well as knives and an axe at the scene. On the 2nd of August, 1993, Mona Fandey, her husband Mohammed Noor Effendi Abdul Rahman and the couple's assistant Jeremy Hassan were charged with the murder of Mazlan Idris and remanded in custody. Throughout the trial, Mona exhibited eccentric behavior including appearing cheerful, constantly smiling and posing for press photographers. She dressed extravagantly every day with bright and colorful designs on her dress, at one point exclaiming, "Looks like I have many fans." Observers later remarked that Mona had finally received the spotlight she had craved her entire life, with her demeanor more comparable to a celebrity arriving at a movie premiere than a criminal defendant being escorted into court by prison officers. On the 9th of February, 1995, Mona Fandey, her husband Mohammed Noor Effendi, Abdul Rahman and the couple's assistant Jeremy Hassan were found guilty as charged and sentenced to death by hanging for the murder of Mazlan Idris. Speaking to reporters after the sentence was handed down, Mona stated, "I am happy with the decision and I thank Malaysians," before blowing kisses to a crowd of bystanders. All 3 convicts were then transported to the death row section of Kayang prison in Selangor to await their execution. In the early morning hours of the 2nd of November, 2001, Mona, Effendi and Jeremy were hanged at Kayang prison. A prison official said the trio expressed no remorse at the pre-dawn execution. It was reported that during her execution Mona uttered the words, "I will never die," and was still calm and smiling. She declined a last meal, she was instead given a dinner from KFC. Number 7 Adolf Eichmann was a German-Austrian official and executed in Israel. He was captured and detained by the Allies in 1945, but escaped and eventually settled in Argentina. In May 1960, he was tracked down and apprehended by Israel's Mossad intelligence agency and put on trial before the Supreme Court of Israel. The highly publicized Eichmann trial resulted in his conviction in Jerusalem, following which he was executed by hanging in 1962. Declined a special meal, instead requesting a bottle of caramel red wine with the usual prison food of cheese, bread, olives, and tea. He drank about half of the bottle. Number 8 on our list is Ajmal Kasab. Kasab was a Pakistani terrorist and a member of the Islamist militant organization through which he took part in the 2008 Mumbai terrorist attacks in Maharashtra. India killed 72 people during the attacks, most of them at the Chhatrapati Shivaji terminus. Kasab was the only attacker who was apprehended alive by the police. On the 3rd of May, 2010, Kasab was found guilty of 80 offences, including murder, waging war against India, possessing explosives, and other charges. On the 6th of May, 2010, he was sentenced to death on 4 counts and to life imprisonment on 5 counts. He was the first person to be executed in India since 2004, and as of 2025, is the only one among those involved in the Mumbai terrorist attack. His last meal was a tomato along with jail food and 2 cups of masala tea. He also drank 4 bottles of mineral water. Number 9 is Hideki Tojo, Japan, executed by hanging for Japanese war crimes. Tojo was sentenced to death on November 12, 1948, and executed by hanging. 41 days later, on December 23, 1948, a week before his 64th birthday. Before his execution, he gave his military ribbons to one of his guards. They are on display at the National Naval Aviation Museum in Pensacola, Florida. In his final statement, he apologized for the atrocities committed by the Japanese military and urged the American military to show compassion toward the Japanese people, who had suffered devastating air attacks and the 2 atomic bombings. His last meal was rice, miso soup, and grilled fish. And last as number 10 is Saddam Hussein, Iraq, executed by hanging for crimes against humanity. In 2003, a US-led coalition invaded Iraq, falsely accusing him of developing weapons of mass destruction and of having ties with Al-Qaeda. Coalition forces quickly toppled Saddam's regime and captured him. During his trial, Saddam was convicted by the Iraqi High Tribunal of crimes against humanity and sentenced to death by hanging. He was executed on the 30th of December, 2006. The Times states that he refused their offers of cigarettes and a last meal of chicken and shawarma rice. Other sources state Hussein ate his last meal of chicken and rice and had a cup of hot water with honey. Regardless of the source, whatever Hussein actually had for his last meal is unknown. What would you have eaten as your last meal? Don't forget to hit the like button, leave a comment and subscribe. Thank you for watching.